would help with that. Now, Fulvio Valentes, who chairs the Windsor Essex Catholic District School Board, said that this has renewed a call that they made earlier this year, which was for the province to change the vaccine mandate at schools. They want educators, they want staff, they want anyone who's eligible, who's going to step foot inside of a school, to get vaccinated. That's not something that Ontario is doing. I asked if the province won't do it, will the board? Here's what he told me.
I understand that the Toronto District School Board has done that, and we're all anxiously looking to see how that's playing out, on there, because we were hoping that with the lobbying from the various school boards, with the lobbying from the Trustees Association, the provincial one, that the government would certainly look at doing that on a uniform basis across the province. But should that not happen, and should the situation continue to increase in terms of the number of COVID cases, I think that's something that we absolutely have to look at.
Now, I asked the government if they're willing to change their policy. They say that the policy they have now, a disclosure policy, is one supported by the Ontario Science Table. That's staff saying, I am vaccinated or I will not tell you. If they won't tell you, they have to get tested every couple of days. Now, as far as what's happening for students here during this outbreak, there will be a COVID test center set up here if they would like to come and get a test, depending on what the health unit has advised them to do. The hospital is booking appointments as well. And they also wanted to mention that Windsor Regional Hospital, while they are booking appointments, you can also go to the medical laboratories in Windsor on Olette. There's also a location in Leamington. If you call them, you can slide in for an appointment there. Kat?
Thanks for this, Chris. The CBC's Chris Ensing live outside of St. Joseph's tonight. Windsor Regional Hospital prepared for this. More COVID-19 cases among children as they return to school. That's why they opened the Puma Clinic, the new pediatric assessment center. Now, since opening a couple weeks ago, they've already seen 820 students at the center. Nearly all of them got swabbed for a COVID-19 test. 7 of them were sent to emergency for more assessment or treatment. Now, the center has mostly seen kids between 4 and 9 years old. That makes up about 38% of all visits. About 36% are between 0 and 3 years old, and the rest are in the 10 to 17 age range. Now, officials say they are prepared to expand as needed to keep up with demand.
We have utilized staffing from various areas to help support the clinic now because we've realized we needed to expand early on before school started, to try to make sure that we have the services available for school-age children if they needed to be tested and seen with nursing and physician support.
Some public school board parents want to know that drivers with mask exemptions are following the rules, especially since their children are younger than 12 and they can't be vaccinated. The busing company says that they have many measures in place that all drivers should be following. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa has more.
A handful of Windsor Essex, roughly 500 school bus drivers can't wear one of these. They have a medical mask exemption. Whether they mask up or not, Student Transportation Services says all drivers should be wearing a face shield as students get on or off the bus. But some parents say that hasn't been the case for their driver, and they want them to follow the rules. And if that doesn't happen, they suggest putting up plexiglass barriers between the driver and the children.
This is not really acceptable. Everybody here needs to actually have some kind of social responsibility, especially we are talking about safety of small kids who cannot get vaccines.
I also want the bus company to empathize that I am a concerned parent. I get anxious when I put my child on who's unvaccinated on the bus. This is going to have an impact. We are seeing the numbers going up.
Student Transportation Services told CBC News that it is aware of this case. The manager of the bus company First Student has reminded the driver of the rules and is doing periodic checks. It says parents are encouraged to call in about any concerns. As for the plexiglass option, it says those aren't allowed under Ministry of Transportation guidelines. But there's many other measures keeping students safe. Drivers of unknown vaccine status must do a rapid COVID-19 test twice weekly. All drivers are given face shields to wear as students get on and off the bus. Windows are encouraged to be slightly open, and the bus is sanitized by drivers and deep cleaned overnight.
Every parent's got to make a determination about how much risk they're willing to put their child at. The school bus is so much smaller than a classroom. Obviously, there's only so so much distance you can do. At the end of the day, the parent has to weigh the risk for themselves and what they're comfortable with for their child.
Parents say they just want to see the driver follow the rules, especially as COVID-19 cases in Windsor Essex schools are on the rise.
I just want actually the student transportation and the board and the school bus company to show some kind of concern towards the small kids. These small kids are not like they are the most vulnerable people right now in the world without actually being able to get vaccines.
Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
As the election nears, we're continuing to focus in on some of our local candidates. Yesterday on the show, we heard from candidates running in Windsor West, and today we turn to Essex. We took questions from you, the audience, and asked those in the three major parties running in Essex to answer. The Conservative candidate, incumbent Chris Lewis, declined to participate. If you're elected, what is your position on Line 5, and how do you support it in Parliament?
No, the Liberal platform has the best climate plan of all of the parties out there. It's received an 8 out of 10 response from academics. In fact, Dr. Jakarta indicated that our plan was the best plan, far exceeding the plan that the NDP has put out, which he gives an F for failure, and the regressive Conservative plan. To get to your actual question, though, Line 5, obviously, we need to work with our counterparts in the United States. We need to move forward to make sure that our energy does get to where it needs to go. Pipelines are far more safe and secure than rail travel. And so it is definitely something that we will want to ensure that our energy gets to markets, that our oil gets to markets, and we'll work very diligently to ensure that we get safe passage.
We support Line 5, and we know that we need to switch from fossil fuels into green energy. We have a very ambitious climate change plan, and the reason is because this is where we're going, not just as a country, but as a globe. We have to tackle climate change. We have to look at renewable energy sources. And when you look at what's happening around the world, there are so many amazing examples of using wind and solar. And let's be honest, we manufacture things here. We are primely positioned to be manufacturers for the green economy of the future. So we know that we're in this transition. We can't leave workers behind. We need to make sure that they're protected. And of course, we need to work together in Canada and globally with our partners to make sure that we're reaching climate targets so that we have a sustainable planet in the future.
If you are elected, how would you improve the safety for migrant workers in Essex, not just amid this pandemic, but overall?
Folks know that I was involved in helping the migrant workers throughout the pandemic. They didn't have PPE when it first hit, and I worked with community partners to raise over $40,000 worth of PPE that I personally delivered every week with a team of people, and we also delivered food. So I know how important it is to protect migrant workers. At the federal level, we had a study, and there were many recommendations that came through, and that happened when I was elected. I sat at the committee at that point, and none of those recommendations have been followed through. We know the path to treating migrant workers fairly in our country. We need a government with the will and with the ability to put those regulations into place to protect workers. It's something I'm committed to. I've worked with this community both when I was elected and not elected, and I will certainly continue to champion them and their rights in Ottawa.
This is a very important topic given the agri-food industry that we have in our region and the importance of maintaining our workforce. I have had a chance to speak with farmers regarding the same issue, and they highlighted how important it was to have the vaccines in place, ensure that the workers were able to work. There were some issues with the glitches with the 14-day quarantine and so forth at the beginning of the pandemic, but our migrant workers are very, very important. And now that we've got the pandemic somewhat under control, migrant workers and temporary foreign workers can already do the back end in the country that they're coming from. So there is that aspect. And that will then also assist when they get here. Much has been done on ensuring that the housing is much improved, and I am prepared as MP to work with our local municipalities, the province, the agri-food industry to ensure that supports are in place to make sure that the workers can get here so that they can do the job, so that they can help with putting food on the table for Canadians and across the world, actually, in safe working and living conditions.
And here's your list of the other candidates running in Essex. Conservative incumbent Chris Lewis, Tracy Ramsey for the NDP, for Liberals Audrey Festeriga, and for the Green Party Nancy Panchishan. People's Party of Canada's candidate is Beth Charon-Rowberry. For the Christian Heritage Party of Canada, Jeremy Palko and Andrew George is running as an independent. The election is on Monday. And to find out more about local candidates, check out our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. And tomorrow we'll bring you a close look at the candidates for the riding of Windsor-Tecumseh. Now, in addition to the major parties we've been hearing from for weeks, some smaller parties are on the ballot as well, often not getting much in the way of votes. But Dale Molnar talks to some candidates about why they keep running.
Jeremy Palko has never run in an election before. He's been a member of the pro-life Christian Heritage Party for about a year, a party even farther right than the People's Party. He says he doesn't expect his party to win this time.
But in the long term, and that is where we're looking. And I believe that there is support that can be gained. And even if it's a voice in the wilderness, so to speak, to try and draw the Conservatives and people who are identify as Conservative to realize that that party has gone left.
On the opposite end of the spectrum, Margaret Villamazar has been running for the Marxist-Leninist Party since 1979. She doesn't expect to win, but she says her party brings issues to the table that otherwise wouldn't be there.
Our party is not an electoral machine as such. It participates in elections. Yes, but it's a party that operates all year round. We're activists. We're involved in the life of our communities.
Political science professor Lydia Miljan says fringe parties like the Communists and the Rhino Party aren't a threat, but considers parties like the Green Party splinter parties that pull votes away from the mainstream parties.
Historically, back in the 1990s, the Reform Party really did overtake the Conservatives, especially in the 93 election. And then you had that split of right of center vote, which made it nearly impossible for a Conservative government to be formed.
But she says just because it may look like someone is supporting a party like the People's Party, come voting day, they might realize voting for that party might result in an outcome in the election they don't like.
If their desire is to vote out Justin Trudeau, voting PPC is not going to do it for them.
I realize the odds of a win are very low. However, it gives the opportunity to educate our community on the little natural areas that Essex Windsor has.
Green Party candidate Nancy Panchishan believes their environmental issues such as climate change are now front and center in the debate, and even if the Green Party doesn't form a government, she feels they're making a difference.
At least if the parties copy the ideas of Green, that's a win. That's a win for all of us, for the common good.
Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
Windsor Essex has a new acting medical officer of health. Dr. Shankar Nesature stepped into the role not long ago. Now that Dr. Wajid Ahmed has moved on to work as the Associate Chief Medical Officer of Health with the province. Dr. Nesature is from St. Catharines. He's in his 31st year of medical practice, and he used to be the top doc in Haldimand, Norfolk. I asked him why he wanted to step in the role here during another difficult time for our region.
Dr. Ahmed called me, and I really respect him. I think that played a role in it. As doctors, we wanted to, and at this important time, I think that doctors and other healthcare providers want to participate in probably one of the most consequential public health challenges in our lifetime.
I wonder what you would say to the community, given that it might be a little bit difficult for some people, given that we started the pandemic with CEO Teresa Meritet and Dr. Wajid Ahmed, and now we see new faces, right, leading the charge once again. For some community members who might feel unnerved by the changes, who are worried about the lack of consistency, what do you say to them just about the capacity to continue leading the charge to fight this pandemic?
Yeah, this is true in medicine overall, and in any organization. It's not about the individual person It's more about the programs and services that we push forward to manage the pandemic. And those recommendations are based on the scientific evidence, expert judgment, clinical experience or experience with, in the health district. Those items are unchanged as there might be changes in leadership or changes in personnel. Secondly, as it relates to Dr. Ahmed, who I respect greatly, he's always available to us. He's in the ministry now. I could call him at any time. One other thing I think I'd like to share with you is that there are other public health priorities in COVID-19. Sometimes we've stopped talking about them. There are people dying of people being adversely affected by the consumption of opioids. Before the pandemic, that was a very significant priority for health, both at the public health level and at the hospital and practitioner and family level. There's all the things that we need to do to improve the health status of children and newborns, and of providing services to new mothers. There are all the challenges related to environmental health and making sure that we have good water, it's good and safe water for the community. And all of those priorities need also public health attention.
Another look at our riverfront there. Just another beautiful day and clear skies for the rest of the evening and clear skies into the night. So Colette Kennedy, she'll be back right after the commercial break with a detailed look at the weather forecast. Colette Kennedy is here now with weather. Colette, I am so happy that it's shaping up to be such a gorgeous week.
Yeah, we're really doing very well. And even though there's changes, kind of subtle changes, there's sort of something on the menu for everyone. So today was really a very comfortable day. Tomorrow, maybe you're missing. I know there's a few folks missing more of that real summertime heat and humidity. Okay, we're going to have it. But then that's only for one day. So these are the kind of fluctuations we tend to see when we're at these kind of bookends of the seasons. So if you think of summer and you think of winter, spring and fall tend to have a lot of these fluctuations. Normal high for this time of year is 22 and a low of 11. So never mind that. We can just kind of cancel that out because we've rarely been seeing that. Today's high 26 unofficially, and the low from this morning 13. And again tonight, a little bit of fog is possible, especially in some of those lower lying areas. So do be aware of that. But then it tends to just burn off quite quickly, right, once the sun comes back up. So sunset tonight, by the way, at 7:40. 25 degrees right now. Really feels about that. Like there's not much of a humid X factor. Different story for tomorrow. And let's broaden this perspective. I showed you last night how high pressure was just dominating. We have the clearer conditions. Well, it carries on. Now, something to keep in mind is something like a little sun shower. Now, what's that? You know when you have hardly any cloud cover, but then you just get a little sprinkle? There's the risk of a little bit of that happening into tomorrow afternoon. Most folks are going to have a dry, sunny, and beautiful day, although a little stickier. And then we've got a front that's going to come through. A few showers are possible along this Friday night into Saturday morning, but mostly it's just going to be that we get a little extra cloud cover, and then that even backs out as we go into the afternoon on Saturday. So that's why the weekend's looking pretty good. Temperatures tonight, low of 17, high tomorrow 29, but take note of it feeling 36. And then there is behind that front a little bit of a cool down before we start that rise again, Katarina.
I love that. Thanks, Colette. I'm just soaking it up for as long as we got this for.
Absolutely. Way to go.
Yeah, thanks, Colette. Now, when we come back, an Ontario bridge has carved out a path for itself right into the new Guinness Book of World Records. We'll tell you more right after the break. Indoor swimming at a few city facilities nearly took a dive because of COVID-19. But now the health unit has approved a new plan that keeps many aquatic programs afloat.
We followed the direction of the health unit, so they reviewed our safety plan. They were pleased with the amount of time or lack of amount of time staff were in close contact with each other. And we will be ensuring that we have additional staff on deck to make sure that when the lifeguards are on site for their recertification, they do get their masks on and physically distance as soon as possible if they are performing a skill where brief close contact is required.
Lifeguarding courses were briefly canceled but will resume this week. The Windsor International Aquatic Center and the WFCU community pools are set to reopen on Monday. Some bragging rights for a city just east of Toronto. A pedestrian bridge in Pickering has made it into the Guinness Book of World Records. The annually published book says the city of Pickering has the world's longest enclosed pedestrian bridge. It runs 250 meters atop one of the world's busiest highways, spanning 14 lanes of traffic. That is it for CBC Windsor News. For more, check out our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. Rick Mercer Report is up next. Have a great night.